Welcome, new Templars. I'm Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka A145, the map maker. And in this video, a little break from our normal programming of current events for me to relay a little personal story from this week that sent me down a rabbit hole and brought to my attention something I would like to bring a wider awareness to, which I'm calling the home service cabal. So as some of you may know, if you watch my previous videos, I became a homeowner as of last year, December 2023, when my mom and stepdad moved out of this house to another house and deeded me the house. So great thing, you know, to have a house come to you, but there were several repairs that were needed. And about a year ago, I started a kitchen renovation. It was not purely just a vanity project. The stove had one burner left working and the faucet was leaking. So I figured instead of having those things individually fixed, which I don't think the stove even could be fixed, to do like a bigger kitchen renovation, which one of the main things was replacing the countertop, which had been tile for all these years. I've lived here since 1995, a very ugly, uneven ivory tile with grouting in between. And I wanted to replace that with granite for years and years and years. So we got that done. We started this process like last February in 2024. The granite was installed over the summer, about August. And in the process of removing the old countertop, the backsplash got destroyed. And so we need to replace the backsplash as the last thing here. And so before I was doing that, I figured I wanted everything to match. We had a mirror backsplash before, and we had taken off all the outlets, you know, to get the backsplash off. And looking at it, like I wanted black outlets to go with our black cabinets. Maybe I'll drop a picture in here when I edit it so you see what I'm talking about. But so there's a lot of outlets. I mean, there was 7 outlets and 4 light switches that I wanted to switch from the typical beige plastic you find on light switches here in the USA to black to have it look, you know, better. So throughout the past year, owning this home has been pretty stressful, trying to work with contractors to get things done. And, you know, meeting a lot of them for the first time, having to find a lot of them myself for the first time. So, you know, I'm making mistakes along the way and learning. And, you know, this video is for anyone that, you know, wants to learn a few things about how this world of home service cabal actually works. And so what I've learned, you know, in the past week is that a lot of these companies that say they're locally owned are not really locally owned, and they're owned by bigger businesses. And sometimes even those businesses are owned by even bigger businesses. And, you know, we've seen all this inflation, especially since 2020. And the prices of all these little things that you would think would just be not that expensive is coming in at prices that I would describe as sometimes even like 5 times more than what I would normally expect. And it's getting to the point where it's like, I could probably go to trade school and learn how to do some of these things myself, as opposed to paying these contractors these insane amounts, which probably most of it is not even going to the person actually doing the work, but going to some big cap mogul off in New York City somewhere. So my mother, you know, some of these contractors that I've been using are ones that my mother previously used. My mother being someone who doesn't do much research, took the vaccine, listens to NPR to get her news. But, you know, I ignorantly figured that she probably knew well enough how to hire contractors to manage a house. Mistake number 1. So for electric, we had used in the past Mr. Electric, which I believe is a franchise with a lot of different branches in different localities. And so I called them up to do what I thought would be this fairly small job of switching out 7 outlets and 4 switches from ivory to black. So make an appointment with them. They show up, or they won't do a quote over the phone, which I have found that that is the common thing with electricians, with every single one I contacted, at least through Angie.com, that none of them will do a quote over the phone. They all want to come there and see it. And I'm assuming with some of these, if you don't accept their quote, they will charge you a fee for coming out to actually give the quote. So, you're encouraged and sort of pressured and coerced into accepting whatever quote they give you. So Mr. Electric comes out, and I've got some slides to go with this. And this is not just gonna be purely personal. Like, this is gonna tie into a much bigger Cabal orchestrated master plan here that's very much tied in with the globalists and the World Economic Forum, as I will illustrate here. But so this was the website for Mr. Electric. So Mr. Electric comes out, looks at this project, which is, what I would think would be extremely straightforward. I would think 1, maybe 2 hours of work, and it does all this math on their little iPad, and the total comes out to $1,660, which I was just like, wow. Yeah, I was expecting more like 350, but I thought about it. I was like, they're already here. I really want to get the next phase of this project moving. And reluctantly I agreed to it, which was also my mistake. I should have probably sent them away there. But they did it. They did a good job. It looks great. I have to say, like, from a design perspective, this needed to happen. It looks really good. It's going to look even better when the backsplash is finished. But they left, and I was just feeling so ripped off, so scammed, so stupid. And then the research began. So Mr. Electric is owned by a company called Neighborly, which operates neighborly.com. Is a company that operates as a franchisor of various home service brands. Neighborly itself is owned by KKR, a global investment firm that acquired it from Harvest Partners in 2021. Now, I want you guys to pay close attention to the dates in this. I've highlighted these dates in my notes because you will see that almost all the big mergers that I'm going to talk about here tonight have really come together since 2017. So this is like within the past 2 presidential terms that it really seems like this globalist cabal has really tightened their grip on all of these industries. And, I'm just talking about home service industries in this video, but I would definitely assume that this applies to like the entire economy, the way things have merged and gone into parent companies and parent companies of the parent companies, that I'm sure it applies to all different areas of our economy. But, being a homeowner now, I have found that, the homeowner's economy, home services economy is just astronomically more expensive than I would have expected. And so going on about neighborly.com, founded in 1981 as Dwyer Group by Don Dwyer, the company rebranded as Neighborly in 2018 and has grown into the world's largest home service franchisor, overseeing more than 30 brands and 5,500 franchises globally as of 2023. KKR's ownership reflects its strategy of investing in established growth-oriented businesses and supporting Neighborly's expansion in the home service sector. In other words, trying to monopolize the whole industry, which should be illegal. And I'm not sure what Trump's new government is doing in terms of antitrust in this industry. We've seen a little bit of antitrust action towards Google from, both Trump and the Biden administration, which is really all one, the white hat administration. But it's just coming to my attention that, we have big globalist problems in a lot of different industries. And these big conglomerates in New York City, they combine home services with entertainment, with energy. It's like they're just scooping in everything. And of course, the big one here is BlackRock, which I've discussed in a video before, but just doing this little research, from my own experience has led me to all these other ones, including here, KKR. So KKR, once again, the owner of Neighborly, which is the owner of Mr. Electric. So KKR and Co. Inc., also known as Kohlberg, Kravis, Roberts and Co., is an American global private equity and investment company. As of December 31st, 2023, the firm had completed private equity investments in portfolio companies with approximately $710 billion of total enterprise value. Its assets under management and fee-paying assets under management were $553 billion and $446 billion, respectively. KKR was founded in 1976 by Jerome Kohlberg Jr. and cousins Harry Kravis and George R. Roberts, all of whom had previously worked at Bear Stearns, where they completed some of the earliest leveraged buyout transactions. So that's a controversial thing, leveraged buyout transactions. And since its founding, KKR has completed a number of transactions, including the 1989 leveraged buyout of Nabisco, a company I might mention that produces completely poison-laden snack foods in the USA, which was the largest buyout in history to that point, as well as the 2007 buyout of TXU, which is an electricity provider based in Texas, which is currently the largest buyout completed to date. So the firm KKR employed 4,500 employees as of December 31st, 2023, and is headquartered in 30 Hudson Yards, Manhattan, New York, also with offices in Beijing, Dubai, Dublin, Houston, Hong Kong, London, Luxembourg, Madrid, Mumbai, Paris, Riyadh, San Francisco, Sao Paulo, Seoul, Singapore, Shanghai, Sydney, and Tokyo. So it seems like they're doing pretty well for themselves. And with all those different offices, I would imagine that they're taking over in several different countries, all the home service industries, and most likely electricity providers and food providers as well. This is like globalism to the max. I mean, this is the definition of globalism. So if you're unfamiliar with Manhattan and New York, this you're seeing on the left there is 30 Hudson Yards. Quite a beautiful building, I have to say. It has almost like a crystalline structure, all glass. And in this Hudson Yards area, which is comprised of a lot of different similar all glass crystal-like shaped buildings, and that strange structure that I have not seen, built after my personal time in New York, but believe that's called the Hive in the center. And I also believe I've read that this company KKR shares the building with Meta offices in New York. So Facebook's Meta parent company. So I look into then the founders, just wondering, when you see a Berg last name, you can kind of usually assume that they're Jewish, but I checked anyways. And yes, Henry Kravis, well, one of the founders, but he's also, I think, chairman or CEO, so one of the highest level executives at the company. Henry Kravis, also Jewish, speaks at the World Economic Forum. Jerome Kohlberg, obviously also, they were all cousins of each other. So you have a little nepotism thing going on there as well. I guess just keep it in the family, you could call it, but all Jewish founders at this company of note. So here is Henry Kravis's profile. He's a well-known billionaire. Like I said, speaks at the World Economic Forum. Henry Kravis is not a new name in the world of corporate finance and philanthropy. The renowned American investor is popularly known for being among the founders of KKR & Co. Inc., one of the world's largest private equity firms. Kravis belongs to the class of the wealthiest people alive with the highest net worth. So why the fuck? I'm just trying to get some electrical outlets changed from ivory plastic to black. Am I enriching one of the most wealthy people in the world in doing so, in paying, this absurd price to get this work done. What's it say here? Oh, he's a philanthropist. What do you know? Philanthropist. And look at this guy's face. Like, he can't smile. All he can do is scowl. His eyes are like little slits. Business investor, philanthropist. Here's where it says Kravis was born into a Jewish family, Tulsa, Oklahoma. His father was a successful Tulsa oil engineer, business partner of Joseph P. Kennedy. Interesting. I hadn't even really read all of this, I don't think. Yes. He's a pioneer in the art of the leveraged buyout, which, you can question if that is a moral or ethical practice or not. And now here's his cousin, Jerome Kohlberg, dead at the age of 90, living in Martha's Vineyard. So, you see a little trend here. Martha's Vineyard is a very exclusive elite island retreat where, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, Obama also has a house. And would you look at that? A BA at Swarthmore, MBA at Harvard, and an LLB at Columbia. So once again, the tie-in of the Ivy Leagues, which I've been talking about for a long time, it's not just these prestigious institutions. Like, this is the way the cabal works, is that people that go through Harvard and the other Ivy Leagues are intentionally, not just because they have a better education or they're smarter than other people, because they have this privilege and this right that they are put in charge of essentially the rest of the world. A lot of the mayors and governors and people in charge of education systems, as well as people in charge of these conglomerate companies practicing leveraged buyout to monopolize the industry, are all emanating out of these Ivy League institutions, which we have Ivy Leagues here on the Octagon group map as just to draw attention to it. Because, most people think Harvard, oh, prestigious. I see these Ivy League names and I think Cabal, most likely involved in unethical practices. So just a few other pictures of this guy. And this is the type of person that I can just look at their face and see evil. I'm not talking about the nose size or anything like that, but he just does not look friendly. Here he is speaking at the World Economic Forum, in case anyone didn't believe it. And actually, when you Google his name, this is the very first picture that shows up, which, like I said, this guy does not know how to smile. I mean, look at that face. It's like, he looks like he wants to, bite a infant's neck and drink the blood, if I'm going to be completely honest. So, Mr. Electric confirmed owned by Cabal. And, I've already been had, but at this point, I was just continuing my investigation to see maybe what's the other options. And so, I've heard, as a new homeowner, I've heard Angie's List is a place to look for contractors. So I go to Angie's List and was just looking for maybe quotes from other electricians just to see maybe how bad I had been had by Mr. Electric. And so Angie's List here specializes in all these different home services. They can find you handy persons, landscape, plumbing, electrical, remodel, roofing, painting, cleaning, HVAC, windows, concrete, essentially everything that you could need for a home. And this, is convenient, all in one, like find you the right contractor, get these different bids from different contractors. What could be better? It's like the Craigslist for home contractors, or, what we used to have as the Yellow Pages, or was it the White Pages? I don't know. One of those two old phone books that had businesses that would, this is, it's the new White Pages essentially, right? So I plug in, I describe my job, look for electrician, and it spits me back out these 5 options, which of course, like, immediately all start texting me and emailing me, not giving me quotes. No one would give me a quote. But so the first one that called me to talk to them on the phone was Mr. Sparky there. And so what do I do? Well, after they said they can't give me a quote over the phone, they have to come see the house. I tell them, well, this was just an experiment anyway, so forget it. But so then I'm looking into Mr. Sparky, and what do I find? Mr. Sparky is part of a little something called Authority Brands family. Acquired by funds advised by Apex Partners in September 2018. So once again, you're seeing that time frame. This is like since 2017, 2018, a lot of these mergers and acquisitions have been made. A global private equity firm with a long history of investing in service-oriented businesses. December 2022. Apex sold Authority Brands to British Columbia Investment Management Group, acronym BCI, a Canadian pension fund manager overseeing billions in assets. BCI owns a controlling stake in Authority Brands, operates as its own entity under that umbrella. So, looking into Authority Brands, which like this is somewhat similar. Again, it's got a parent company within a parent company, but this one's maybe a little bit more independent. But I looked into both, and Authority Brands happens to be headquartered in where? Washington, D.C., of all places, the liberal globalist mecca of the USA, at 7120 Samuel Moores Drive. Somewhat in between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, but is called Columbia, Maryland. I mean, it's essentially the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And let's see. Okay, then I'm looking into BCI a little bit more. I mean, it's a controlling stake. It's not maybe what you consider a direct parent company, but when it's a controlling stake, they have leverage and a say in how companies operate beneath them, I would think. So we move on to look at BCI's website a little bit. British Columbia Investment Management Corporation. Well, maybe this is another thing that Trump's tariffs might affect. If we have a British or Canadian company that's a parent company for all these different American companies, what happens when an American company owned by the Canadian company does service work in America? Is there a tariff involved? I don't know, but I think this is something we should look into. If I'm just trying to get an outlet changed, I don't need to be enriching, a foreign pension fund company. That seems a little bit inappropriate to me, at least. It's trying to support the local economy and not just pay unnecessary fees cross-border internationally if I want to use Mr. Sparky to change an outlet. But just looking at, who runs this BCI company, British Columbia Investment Management, I was looking at, their leadership board, and the first one there is Peter Milburn, and, not a prominently Jewish last name. I don't know his religious background. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page like some of these other billionaires, but just looking at him, something seems a little bit off. I don't know. He does not. I mean, you could just say he looks like a wrinkly older person, but he looks a little reptilian to me, honestly. Like his eyes look black. Just something about his features says reptilian to me personally. So I don't know what's the full deal there, but I'm getting reptilian. So then, kind of backing up in my research, since like I didn't look into all five of those companies, I'm not going to go through. I assume I would probably find similar results with all five, maybe even some matching parent companies of ones that I've already talked about in this video. But I figure, well, who really owns Angie's List? Because if we're getting this list of suggestions from Angie's List, and it seems like they're all, owned by these globalist private equity firms and pension management companies that are overseeing billions in assets, uh, who owns Angie's List? A good question. Well, Angie's List, which is you can look up very easily, is owned by a little company named IAC. IAC Inc. Angie.com is owned by Angie Inc., a publicly traded company. Angie Inc. was formed in 2017 through a merger of Angie's List and Home Advisor, and it is a subsidiary of IAC Inc., a larger internet and media conglomerate headquartered in New York City. In January 2025, IAC announced plans to spin off Angie Inc. as a separate entity in the second quarter of 2025, which would make Angie Inc. fully independent, I'm sure. As of today, March 21st, 2025, it remains under IAC's ownership until that spinoff is complete. So, as you know, I lived in New York for 11 years and spent a good chunk of those years walking to work from the West Village to, I guess you call it like the west side of Chelsea area, 21st Street, or wait, 23rd Street. Big building with a lot of businesses in it. And, what's interesting about living in New York is you're around all this stuff going on, but you don't exactly know what's going on in there. Even in your own building, you kind of know what's going on in your own office, but from office to office, there's a lot of mystery. I've thought a lot from living in New York, there's a lot of locked doors, unlabeled buildings. You just don't know what's going on. But I always noticed this building. I walked by it every day on my way to work. It's a really beautiful Frank Gehry architecture with these frosted white windows. And once again, a very modern, crystalline, like organic design. Always really admired the building. I would have even sometimes walk by this building and run my hand over the glass to feel like the frosted effect and inspect it and try to see like what's going on. And I remember seeing sometimes there was like a party in this space in the bottom left going on, like when I was walking home from work. But it's just crazy how, you pass by these things a million times and never really know what it is, what's really going on there. But indeed it is IAC. I still have not found exactly what that acronym means, but they have their whole history. This is their website. And these are all the brands that they manage. From Angie.com, the one that stands out to me here is People magazine. That's one I've definitely heard of. Looks like a lot of other magazine brides. Travel and Leisure. Like I said before, it's a media, like a digital media and media conglomerate, internet and media conglomerate. Well, who's running it, you might ask? So, of course, their website has the leadership listed, and number one here, the chairman and senior executive, is Barry Diller. Well, what's Barry Diller's background? Here's a close-up on the building. I love the building. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if I love the company that's in there. And I'm not sure if that's the only company in there. I believe it is because their logo is so big on the outside. But here comes Barry Diller, chairperson of IAC, age 83 years old, spouse Diane von Furstenberg. Well, that's a very familiar name to me, having come from the fashion industry in New York. She's one of the top, I don't know if I'd say top in terms of creativity, but top in terms of name recognition and legacy designers, New York City designers, Diane von Furstenberg. So this is a power couple if you've ever seen one. Now, if I'm reading his face, he looks maybe a little bit friendlier than the other one. But I still wouldn't want to be his personal assistant or be anyone, maybe anyone working for him at all, perhaps. I mean, I can't say I judge his character, but who knows? He is Jewish, by the way. Married to Diane von Furstenberg and raised in Beverly Hills. So, once again, a powerful billionaire Jew running the website that is referring people to other websites, also of companies owned by billionaire globalist Jews. So, we've got a little globalist World Economic Forum problem going on in the home service industry. And that's pretty much where my research has ended thus far. I posted something complaining about this situation on Facebook, and some of my friends have already replied with local independent electricians, but those come with their own spectrum of issues and concerns. So I definitely won't use Mr. Electric again. But this just really brought to my attention, the depth of the globalist takeover of our entire economy. And like I said, this is for home industries, home service industries, and I'm sure it applies to a lot of other industries as well. And this is not even touching on BlackRock. I mean, maybe BlackRock owns a controlling percentage in all these companies I've mentioned today, KKR, IAC. Who knows if they own BCI or not? I mean, I'm just guessing at this point, but it's really, it's all about this pyramid right here, this top-down control system that the Cabal has put in place. Now, what does it mean that this has seemingly accelerated since 2017? Can we blame this on Trump? Is Trump fighting against this? There are definitely signs that Trump is going against a lot of what the World Economic Forum represents, which is hopeful. But I really haven't heard too much discussion other than, like I mentioned, that antitrust lawsuit against Google about, doing anything about BlackRock and these other private equity firms that are just absorbing everything and then gouging prices. And, I believe, like, what my feeling is being a homeowner here, I believe they're gouging prices so that people will not be able to afford these renovations, and then they can buy the home. And by the way, since I've owned this home, I've been getting 2 calls per day from random numbers, people with Indian accents asking to buy the home or if I'm interested in selling the home. And I just always hang up on them. I've told them before, please don't call back, and they just keep calling. So I'm getting the sense that the Cabal is making home renovations unaffordable so that they can buy the homes and then, of course, use their companies to do the renovations at a fraction of these costs that they're trying to charge to homeowners, and then resell the home for double the price, or who knows, tear it down. I mean, I'm not sure who's going to buy all these homes if they keep doubling the price of everything, because as the older generation dies out, I don't think like the younger generation X and millennials like myself are going to tolerate this system or even be able to participate in it. And, I think the ultimate goal perhaps is to move all the millennials and Gen X into smart cities and, tiny box apartments, which are definitely going to be owned by Jewish landlords. And then, perhaps once they have enough humanoid robots, they just pump Zyklon B into their little apartments and get rid of the unneeded humans. But I don't know. I'm trying to stay optimistic about all of this. And I've learned from my mistake. I've learned something about how the world works. I've often said on this channel that the whole economy seems quite fake. The way the stores in the mall operate doesn't seem like they could possibly generate enough revenue to actually be paying all their employees as well as rent to the mall itself. All these different little strip malls and storefronts, and even having run my own small business and tried to find commercial space in the city. I was never looking for a storefront, but to even get commercial storage space, anything commercial is automatically like way more expensive than anything like residential. And I, by a miracle, found the warehouse space that D.S.M.P is in now that was at a reasonable rate. It's sort of more like a building with artist studios as opposed to like large storage space, but it's a mixed use building. So I'm very grateful for that. But well, like when I was looking to actually maybe like buy a storage space or buy a commercially zoned building, like there was nothing under $1 million, and most of it was like $5 million. So the Cabal, they keep a tight grip on industry. They don't want small businesses creeping in. They want to control everything. They want to gouge the prices. They want to steal all your money, all your belongings, your home. And on top of that, we don't even own these homes because we have to pay taxes on them. And if you don't pay the taxes, the government put a lien and blah, 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 blah. So, you live, you learn. Maybe one day I'll learn how to switch out an outlet myself. It doesn't seem that complicated. But I was just a little bit shocked to see the depth of the Cabal penetration into such an innocuous industry. I mean, we know they control big pharma and the hospitals as well. Really, every aspect of the economy, you could say, other than like flea markets. And even those, you wonder who owns them. But I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. And, this is kind of like that company, like most of us as patriots and truthers know to not buy food at places like Walmart, Target, even try not to shop there as much as you can since they've been so bad, especially throughout COVID and especially with the woke agenda, that we try to avoid things like that. And on other channels, I know a lot of truthers promote companies like Patriot Switch, where you can get a lot of those basic products from supposedly Patriot-owned companies. I wonder if they really are. I'm still an Amazon user myself, but at least Trump respects Bezos enough to invite him to the inauguration, and perhaps Bezos has been replaced. I mean, Amazon's a whole other level of what seems like near communist takeover of the entire economy. But then, of course, a lot of the stores within Amazon are somewhat independent as well. But it's a troubling trend, and as optimistic as we are about the Trump administration and what he's doing on a national and international level with removing us from the WHO, which I just actually read an article that the WHO is looking at essentially bankruptcy without the U.S. funding coming in. This is a good sign. His speech to the World Economic Forum that was essentially scathing them was also a very good sign, but I'm not sure if enough is being done to reverse this globalist takeover of all industries. But all we can do, I think the moral of this video is, once again, vote with your dollar, research any company you're hiring. See, I'm used to voting with my dollar on actual products I buy, and it didn't really occur to me that services themselves would be equally as infiltrated and owned by these same globalists that that we're fighting this whole war against. And I even wonder if these ones that I mentioned in this video, like Barry Diller and super creep, evil looking Henry Kravis, are these types of people that may have already been dealt with by the white hats. I'm not sure. But there's definitely still evil at the highest levels, and there's definitely still a lot of companies still operating in New York and using these types of practices like leveraged buyouts and essentially creating monopolies, which is supposed to be illegal. So I really hope that this Trump administration can do more to support small businesses and do more to fight. I mean, it was actually mentioned just the other day that at the DOJ speech that they will be doing things to counter monopolization practices, and I'm not sure how far that will go, but that definitely needs to go to New York City and look into companies like KKR and BlackRock. I mean, I've heard BlackRock just acquired the Panama ports, which is not necessarily the best sign. And some people are saying the White House now control BlackRock, but I'm still seeing corporate takeovers. I'm still seeing price gouging on a lot of things. And I'm still seeing a predominantly fake globalist run economy. And so let's hope the White Hats have a plan. And like I said before, vote with your dollar and resist that beast system and learn from our mistakes. And hopefully, if Maestro really is planning a golden age, I think a lot of these predatory practices will be dying. And I think also as the population rolls over, the older generations pass and the millennials and Generation X come more into prominence, that hopefully we see a little more of a change in the overall sentiment of how this world is run. Because it's really gotten to that point. I mean, just like I said, a lot of this has happened, or at least accelerated, since 2018. And, again, I don't blame that on Trump, but it may be a symptom of essentially the globalists just accelerating their plan like we saw during COVID. We saw the globalist New World Order plan, make leaps and bounds forward, at least attempted during that COVID demonstration, and all those stores falling in lockstep, all the big box stores putting up the plexiglass and putting the one-way aisles and the 6 feet distance spacers in all at the same time. That's what exposed the big box stores, if anyone had any question about the big box stores being cabal. But now we see that even service industries have been consumed by this globalist, and not to be anti-Semitic, but predominantly Jewish-owned cabal. But are there Catholic royals at the top of that? I do believe so at some level. So not blaming it all on the Jews. It's just interesting to point out that this court factor model is still very much in effect. So the outlets look great, and I've learned a good lesson this week. I'll buy it at a price. And we're going to be much more cautious going forward and frugal. So if you want to support D.S.M.P and the New Templars and help me make up the loss of my 7 black outlets, check out deepstatemapproject.com, where you can get all the posters behind me and much, much more. I've just added a whole new group of crystals to the crystal section, fresh listings straight from the Tucson Gem and Mineral shows. And we got some really amazing new pieces listed. The latest set of listings is a little bit more moderately sized and priced crystals. We kind of did the listings in biggest to smallest. And so we're about 75% listed from Tucson at this point. And we should be doing one more big set of listings, and then we'll be fully crystal listed from the Tucson 2025 season. But of course, I did want to hold up, I got the D-Web mini poster freshly dry mounted here with the borders cropped. And we sell this as the mini poster version. It does not come dry mounted, it comes floppy paper, but this is like what you can do with it to get it wall ready. So check all that out on deepstatemapproject.com. Sign up for the newsletter on our homepage. And I do have notes this week for current event video, but I had to get this little personal story off my chest and this warning about the globalists taking over service industries in America. So hopefully I can get my current event video recorded. I don't think I'm gonna do it tonight, but maybe we'll do it tomorrow. So we will see you guys on the next video. Vote with your dollar, New Templar.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the future of fighting.
movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Could be calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out. You'll find out.
How far we're willing to go to fight